Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Erik, a teacher with LSAT Demon, and I'm excited to have a special guest, one of our students here today. Now, many LSAT students ask the question about retakes and whether it's going to look bad if you take the LSAT multiple times, if schools are going to judge you for that. Well, Ethan, an LSAT Demon student who's joining me today, took the test 5 times, and I think is a great example of how being willing to retake the test can just completely transform who you are as an applicant. So looking forward to getting into that. Ethan, thank you so much for joining. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So let's jump into it. Maybe give me an overview of your LSAT journey from where you started to where you are now.
Yeah, so I took the first official LSAT in September of 2022, and that was actually my first diagnostic as well, and I scored a 139.
So no study before then?
Barely, no.
All right.
I had one or two questions I looked at before the test, but I really had no idea what was going on when I took it.
Gotcha. All right.
And this was before finding LSAT Demon. I took the test two more times after that before finding LSAT Demon and scored a 145 and a 154. I ended up applying that cycle. This was 2 cycles ago, and I just didn't get the results that I wanted. I would have had to take out a lot of debt. So I decided to push it off because I knew that I hadn't put too much effort in the LSAT, and I felt like I could really improve if I did. I started searching online just for different resources I could use. And I actually found a TikTok comment that said somebody who improved used LSAT Demon. So I started looking into it and it just looked good to me. It appealed to me. So I tried it out. And yeah, I think it was the best decision I made for my LSAT test prep.
Excellent. So you decided to reapply. You didn't like the results that you got with your 154. So what was the next step after that? You joined up with the Demon. What was the progress after that?
Yeah, so I joined with the Demon, and this was 10 months ago. I studied for 10 months and I took the test in April. I ended up scoring a little below my range. I was PTing in the high 160s, and I scored a 163 in April. I had practice tests that were higher than that already, so I knew I was going to take June again because I was perfect on games, and
Mhm.
June was the last test that offered games. And yeah, I retook in June. This was my fifth and final attempt, and I scored a 171. So yeah, I'm very happy with that.
Amazing. 139, 145, 154, 160. Sorry, what did you say?
63,
163,
163.
171 over the course of a couple years. Amazing. And that's exactly why we say be ready to take it up to 5 times because you're just a completely different applicant than you were at any point. Now, that sounds like kind of a linear trajectory upwards if you were to graph it out. But I'm sure there were points where it didn't feel like it was just a straight journey to the top. Were there points where it felt like you plateaued or flattened out or you weren't sure whether it was worth it to keep going?
Yeah, for sure. I was just thinking about that the other day when I was looking back on my LSAT journey. It like when you look at it from a overview perspective, it looks like I just steadily increased over time.
Uh-huh.
But there were several points where I plateaued. I had a plateau in the high 150s. I had a plateau in the low 160s, and then the mid 160s. It was almost every single little jump I did, I plateaued at.
Mm.
And it was like little periods where I would go a month or two where I just wouldn't have a new high score. And I just had to stay disciplined, continue to study every day. And eventually it went up and I improved.
Yeah. Was there anything that you remember specifically doing to launch you out of those plateaus? Or was it just, like you said, stay consistent, trust the process?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the time I started studying with the Demon, I was attending a lot of live classes, and I just felt like I really needed to get familiarity with the test. And just speaking with Demon teachers and professors, they gave me different methods I could use on each section, and I feel like that really helped me to jump into the 160s. But aside from that, then I just transitioned to studying on my own, and I just stayed consistent. I'd say consistency really was my main.
Awesome. So you mentioned getting really good at the logic games being one of the key factors. On the other sections of the test, logical reasoning, reading comprehension, any big challenges that you had to overcome there?
Yeah, I would say reading comprehension for me was the toughest section. When I first started studying for the LSAT, I really struggled with reading comp. I was only getting about 10 questions right on a section, and I would kind of just rush through. I
Mhm.
wasn't really taking that LSAT Demon approach of focusing on accuracy, truly understanding what you're reading, or implementing any of the strategies LSAT Demon was giving, like having an active conversation in your head while you read, or like asking questions about what's going on, trying to identify the main point. Like none of that was happening. So I just would go into the questions after reading through the passage and I wouldn't understand anything. I wouldn't be able to predict answers. So that was the struggle. And the way that I overcame that was because I was in a class with an old LSAT Demon teacher, Brandon. I know he's not with LSAT Demon anymore, but he was fantastic. And he ended up giving me a tip in class where he said, after you read the first paragraph, you ask yourself, what have we learned so far and where do we think it's going? And ever since he gave me that tip and he would use that approach in class, so I would know how to use it in real time. I began implementing that into my strategy, and I did it every single time, whether I was drilling or whether I was taking time sections. And it was amazing for me. It really helped me to stay engaged, along with just conversing with myself in my head as well.
Nice. I love those two questions. I remember those questions from Brandon's teaching. The first one, what have we learned so far, seems fairly obvious. The second one, where do we think this is going? Maybe not as many readers think to ask that question. Why do you think that's so important to ask yourself, hey, where do I think this is going?
Yeah, so the big point that Brandon told me about that was it doesn't really matter whether or not you're able to make a good prediction about where it's going. Like I obviously we don't know where it's going, but based on what we've learned so far about the passage, it's helpful when you can just, I don't know, throw out a few predictions about what you think is going to happen next, and it just helps you to stay engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. Logical reasoning, any big lessons that you remember learning, any light bulb moments or a time when something just clicked in your brain, you're like, aha, for logical reasoning?
Logical reasoning for me was a bit slower. I I wasn't the worst at it when I began, but I wasn't the best either. And it definitely just took me time to practice the strategy of really combating the passage and being critical of the passage and understanding what I'm reading. I'd say for logical reasoning is another very important thing is to predict answers. I would, I know a lot of people are concerned about speed. I was too, but that's really not the main thing. As long as you focus on accuracy and predict answers, you're able to go pretty consistent through the questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speed and learning to not freak out about the timing of the test is so crucial, and it's such a difficult thing to get over. So you mentioned trying to rush through the passages in RC. Was it the same thing in logical reasoning? You were concerned with getting through the entire section, and did that change? Did you reach a point where you were not finishing the section?
Yes, I did. So when I began, I thought, finishing the section would be the best way for me to have an opportunity to score high. And obviously, that's not the approach we take here.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a while to actually figure that out. For at least 6 months of my 10 months of prep, I was still trying to finish the section. And I even took the April LSAT, and I think a huge reason why I underperformed on that test was because I was trying to finish the sections, and I did finish the sections, and that wasn't something that I had ever done in my practice test leading up to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a big piece of advice that LSAT Demon gives is if you do something different on your test day than you do in your practice tests, oftentimes you're going to underperform, and that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
So I ended up going into the June test, like I'm telling myself that, I'm okay with whatever the outcome is, but as long as I just focus on accuracy and understanding, I'm good. Like everything's fine. and I didn't finish the sections. I actually left 8 questions undone on the test.
Amazing. So 171, but you didn't finish, you didn't even answer 8 of the questions. I mean, you guessed on them, so maybe you got 1 or 2 right by chance, but you went from worrying about finishing the entire section, and it's very normal, people go into these official tests with the best of intentions, saying, okay, I'm going to follow the game plan, treat it the same way, and then you show up and get caught up in the moment. You think, well, maybe this is my day, and totally normal. You can kind of lose track of what it is you're supposed to do, but just followed the game plan on the June test, didn't worry about finishes, focused on accuracy, and worked out for you. That's awesome. Well done on just that whole journey and on your commitment, especially on the June test, to you doing it the right way. Totally paid off for you. Now you're on to thinking about applications, right? Are you working on your personal statement now, or how are you liking the process of now shifting focus to applications?
Yeah, so I am really enjoying it. I'm working with LSAT Demon's applications assistant, Leslie, and she's been great. I'm working on my personal statement, my diversity statement, my resume, just getting all my application materials in. So feeling really good, going to apply this upcoming August and September when they open.
Nice. You don't need to get into any specific details or personal details if you don't want, but I'm interested in the process of selecting a personal statement topic. Do you have a topic in mind that you like, that you're working with? Or is that still something that you're workshopping?
Yeah, I do have a topic. I'm talking about my internship right now.
Nice. And what were the big things that you were thinking about when selecting that topic? Like why pick that particular topic for your personal statement?
Yeah, so I was pretty confused when I first started trying to figure out what I wanted to write about. It's kind of daunting when you're just looking at a blank screen in
Yeah.
Microsoft Word, and you're trying to tell your life story or convey something positive about yourself to
In like 2
the
double spaced
lost.
pages, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so figuring that out was a little difficult. So I started looking at different podcasts from LSAT Demon and researching what Ben and Nathan think and what you think on a few of the podcast episodes. And I heard Nathan say that, honestly, I just want to hear about some serious stuff and hear you talk about your work, like something you did, taking initiative or something positive. So I was like, oh, well, if it's that simple, I'm just going to talk about my job right now.
Great. Focus on your successes, show yourself being a productive, professional person. Love it. Cool. Well, Ethan, thank you so much for coming on to share your story. Any final words of advice for LSAT students?
No, I would just say stay consistent, believe in the strategies you're doing, and make sure you focus on really understanding what you're reading and accuracy.
Awesome. From a 139 to a 171 over 5 test attempts, Ethan, congratulations. You crushed it. Can't wait to hear how this application cycle goes for you. Stay in touch.
All right, will do. Thank you.
Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.